Greetings and a warm welcome to the Prakash Batna Show. I am your host Prakash Batna, and our mission is to make sales and selling an enjoyable and seamless experience. We bring you the most brilliant minds and industry experts who have traversed the sales landscape and are now here to share their incredible journeys, success frameworks, invaluable experiences, unique perspectives, and profound learnings. Join us as we dive into the world of sales, uncovering the secrets to staying ahead in the game and achieving extraordinary success. Get ready to be inspired and empowered to elevate your sales prowess to new heights. Selling startup idea, telling a great story, and building a successful venture. Do you think all these three are different? No, not at all. All these are mixed into one. And today we have a very special guest with us who has been there, done that, and seen all of this. Mr. Shailendra Mrityunjayappa, who is the president and CEO of Fintellix, a leading global provider of DataTech, RegTech, and supervisory tech to the financial industry, services industry. Over 2 decades of experience in banking technology, data analytics, risk, and regulatory technology gained into mid to large enterprises and startups globally. Very active in the startup ecosystem. And today, let's hear his perspectives. So, let me welcome Mr. Shailendra to the Prakash Batna Show. Mr. Shailendra, glad to have you on our show. And today, it is the most burning and most relevant topic: selling startup idea, telling a great story, and building a successful venture, at least in India perspective, right? Um so my first thing, before we jump into the topic, before we get into the discussion mode of what this topic is all about, and you share your experiences, you have had a very successful career in banking, tech, data analytics, rec tech, and so on and so forth in established companies and startups. It would be great if you can just highlight your career journey, what you had been, what has been your experiences, and so on and so forth. That would be a good starting point for us to start our discussion.
Wonderful. Prakash, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. Um, I wish you and your show great success.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so, coming to your first question on what led me to this career and what
Yeah,
choices I
because
had
you
made.
have had a very successful career, and it's niche. I have not come across many of them who share the portfolio or profile that you are having in, and that's what intrigued me: data insights, RegTech, SupTech, and so on and so forth. So, how did this journey happen? Your professional journey?
Okay. So, before I answer that question, I'll say
Yeah,
that the definition of success varies. Right? I think
absolutely.
it's up to an individual to see what success is. Um, and that could be a whole different topic for another podcast. Um, so
I'm sure I would love to do it.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, coming to what led me to this this career, just like any other normal student, I didn't have clarity of what I'm going to do. I think through high school, um, and got into an engineering program because that was that seemed like the most obvious thing to do. um, and towards the end of my engineering program is when I started um, you know developing the idea of specializing in computer science, getting into the technology industry. And initially my plan was to complete engineering and head to the US for a master's degree. Um, so after my engineering, I did my GRE and TOEFL. I got admissions, but while I was in that process of preparing to travel, um, one of my friends pulled me into an opportunity. He said, "No, no. While you have a few more months to go, why don't you just get some experience and let's go this banking tech company. Let's see if you can do a stint there." And it so happened that I landed at this company, um, and very quickly I got the ropes of the role. I started traveling on the job. I spent time in Southeast Asia. I was beginning to enjoy my job. I also quickly realized that I was good at my job, and people were appreciating me for what I was doing. Um, so when I had the opportunity to um, push my admission in my university by another semester, I did that, and by another semester after that, um, and thereafter I said, you know what, why go through all the hassles of another degree and another process of discovery? If I have found my sweet spot, I should stick to what I'm doing, and it looks like I'm good at what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. um, so that is what got me started in the financial technology sector. Um, and since then, you've seen my my career graph. It's been through and through in banking technology, in on the transaction processing side, as well as on the data analytics side.
Right, right. So you mentioned one point. You figured out the sweet spot, okay, and very soon or early stage of your career, or maybe you have not even started in full flow. You have been able to figure out what is right or what is wrong, and the surprising part is even today, after so many years, many of them, including me to an extent, it's very difficult for us to figure out what is that sweet spot. So we keep haggling, we keep juggling, we keep multitasking, hustling, and so on and so forth. So, how did that happen? How did you realize, like, yeah, this is the one that I want to go ahead with, rather than, and that too at a so early stage of your career?
Yeah, like I said, I would be lying if I said I knew everything and I had figured out everything, right? Um, yeah, I mean, it was a series of events that unfolded. Like I said, getting into banking tech was not by choice.
Right.
It was just to fill a gap between my completing my engineering program and starting a master's program.
Hmm.
And the important part is that I've maybe it was coincidence, maybe it was good luck, serendipity, as they say. Um, the fact that you got to do something that you enjoy doing, that
Hmm.
was getting you recognition, that was pushing you, that was challenging, and that was giving you a lot of exposure,
Hmm.
and learning opportunities. I think this is what I thought was my sweet spot. That is what I wanted to do,
Right.
because I think I've always been somebody that has been curious, that has been wanting to, that has an experimental mindset. Um, so those kids who are always uneasy, always wanting to do too many things. I was one of
Yeah.
those, I guess. Um, so because of the kind of job I did, right, consulting on banking technology projects, building banking technology products,
Mhm.
it put me in front of customers. It took me to different parts of the world. it,
Hmm.
uh, it really challenged me in terms of solving really complex technology requirements of a bank or a financial institution. We were thinking of building some new products, new modules on the products that could automate different parts of the bank, that could
Hmm.
streamline and eliminate a lot of manual processes and fringe systems. So all of these problems made it really interesting for me, and and I was like, if I had to do this after 5 years traveling, through another degree program or master's program and another few jobs, I would have still enjoyed doing this. So
Right.
I just got an accelerated and a process of getting to where I wanted to be.
Right. Right. So, well articulated. So, in terms of, so you mentioned couple of more points in terms of the experimentation. I wanted to do few things. I wanted to do experiment few things. Does that experimentation led to your entrepreneurial journey? Because after, again, success is a barometer, or is very subjective. What it means to you, what it means to me, may be completely different. For some it is money, for some it is emotion, and so on and so forth. So you have had a good stint, if I may put it in that way, and you've been in an area that was giving you high, that was helping you, that was you are excited about. How did this entrepreneurial journey started? from a professional to entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think it is the same tenets that that I spoke about, that will also lead you to doing something on your own, which is uh, wanting to do things faster than you would normally find in a corporate setup, wanting to do something different or something new, wanting to take some risk, wanting to try something completely different from your from what you're used to, or getting out of your comfort zone, as you say. um, I think that's what sets you to to dabble with a small company, an early stage startup, with your own enterprise. um, yeah, I think some people have it you know built in them very naturally. They've
Hmm.
been Some people acquire that or grow into that over time. um, yeah, I think I was one of those that was always itching to do something, or itching to do too many things rather. So
Yeah.
in many uh, yeah, in some context, I try to hold myself back and not try to get into too many things.
That is the reason why you took a bit long, in my opinion, a bit long to get into the entrepreneurship journey. For the reason of you holding back, seeing, testing, thinking through, or it was any other compulsions, or you were dabbling both the things. Acha, theek hai, I will also be doing. Let me, like most of the, even I, when I started my first company, I was doing a job also, plus just to ensure that the money keeps coming in. I was doing a job, and then part time I have started my startup. That is not an ideal way, for that matter, but for people like us who have always that cash crunch, that is the best solution that we have. We test the market, and then, so was that the phenomena for you also, or it was a direct 100% jump?
Not really, not really. um, I think the transition was gradual, right? You do something, then you do something in a setup which is slightly different. Then you
Right.
move to a role where there's a little higher risk, or get into a business, get into an enterprise, start your own, begin to invest in other ventures, take more risks. So it is a delicate balance between what lifestyle you want to have, what financial security you want to have, versus how much of risk you're willing to take, and how much you're willing to commit yourself to
Hmm.
to an idea, right? um, so yeah, I think it's
So,
a yeah, there's no straight answer to this, right? It is
no,
uh,
absolutely, absolutely, and that's the reason. It's all about the experience that you share, and that's what is more important, because there is
yeah,
no binary function. There is no yes or no. It's all subjective, and what you had felt at that point of time, when you're starting off, and that's what matters more. And uh, so, when you started your entrepreneurial journey, your first customer, was it in house? Was it, when I say your first customer, barring the friends and family, I will not count them, because they will always root for us, they will always support us, and so on and so forth. Your first commercial customer, was it difficult, easy to get in, and how did you get in?
yeah. uh,
I
in my
am sure
first
you will go for the first.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So in my first again, an entrepreneurial stint was again a series of um, coincidences, and
Hmm.
that led me to actually take that step.
Hmm.
Um, Out of all the places, um, in some part of Central slash Eastern Europe, I was doing my consulting work, um, and I realized that there is an opportunity here. There's a gap here that needs to
Hmm.
be filled, right?
Hmm.
If it is not me doing it, somebody else will have to do it. So the client was super happy to have me take up that challenge. They said, look, if it is you that's going to solve this problem for us, the project is yours, type, right?
Wow, that's nice.
um, so I think it was it was mostly built around my personal competency and my
mm,
ability to get things done.
mm,
Um, and I would say that is when I started graduating from being a brilliant individual performer
mm,
to my next stage of professional development, right? Other than obviously moving from a job to becoming a business owner or an entrepreneur, the other part of professional development was you're beginning to think
mm,
more from an outcome perspective, owning something and delivering something for a customer, and
mm,
not just thinking of doing your role in within a larger project or a program.
mm,
So both of these kind of happened in parallel, and I'd say my mid mid career, I'd say, was about me learning to own outcomes,
mm,
learning to understand what is more important for a customer, right?
mm,
More than just what is important for oneself.
mm.
So yeah, I think that was my first customer. Like I said, it was not like I had some great brilliant idea that I went to somebody completely unknown and I was able to convince.
Mm.
But it was in a familiar setting because it was a prior customer. It
Mm.
was a known individual
Yeah,
who had seen me operate, who had confidence in me and my ability to get something done, and
yeah.
me coming with the proposition that I will take the responsibility to actually do this whole thing for you, gave me that opportunity, and that also gave me the confidence to take that risk and say, okay, now I can build a business around this and be on my own.
So it was, if I understand or if I have to put it rightly, it was your Mr. Shanand, it was your competencies that was screaming loud to the partner or to the person who gave you that kind of opportunity, because your competencies were quite good enough, is what I understand from the discussion that we did, right? So
That's correct.
yeah, and so today we will definitely be discussing, because more on that particular journey, selling startup idea, telling a great story, and building successful ventures, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah,
me, they are not three different topics. Maybe for the people who would be listening in, or maybe for out there, few people out there, uh, they will be thinking that these are three different topics. Ek startup idea alag hai, one is the another thing is great story, and the third is building a successful venture. I personally believe that all this is a part of a successful venture. So all these are intertwined or intermingled or intermeshed, and so on and so forth. What is your quick thoughts? What is your uh, 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 initial impressions on this particular topic? And then while we delve more into details on
yeah. um, Everybody has a story, right?
this.
Every startup has a story. Every startup founder has a story. I think I've developed a little more understanding and clarity of what works, what doesn't work, what works better than some of the other things. In the
Mm,
last, say, 6 7 years, when I've become more active in the startup circles with
mm,
as an investor or an advisor, um, having seen so many people come up with ideas, go through their journey of from idea to sorry, yeah, go through their startup journey and go through um, you know various pitching sessions. I think I have better clarity um, that everybody has a story,
mm,
but it some people have a better knack of telling their story,
mm,
and some people struggle to say their story, right? And when we say story, we are talking about um, connecting the emotional and the core proposition of the product, right? Or service or solution, whatever is the startup all about, right? um, it is about trying to trying to invoke in the audience um, a connection to what you're trying to propose, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and some people do a great job of that.
Hmm.
And there is a story, and also the stories are are in multiple levels or layers. These stories are in multiple versions or variants, right? So there is a story in a founder's personal story
Hmm.
in how he came about or started the business. There is a story in the world, and why the that kind of product or solution is required in the world. There's a story in what will happen to the world if this kind of product solution is adopted, and how the world will be a different place. So there is a story in everything, and and the story also, there's something we call progressive elaboration, right? So the story can also be elaborated to different degrees of detail.
Hmm.
Um, and there is the ability for people to narrate the same story in different versions depending on who the audience is, right? If you're trying to connect with investors, the same story, the emphasis will be on some parts and not on some other parts. If you're pitching to a customer, the stories, broad outlines may be the same, but how you narrate it, to what detail you narrate it, which parts of the story you emphasize, that could change, right, from stakeholder to stakeholder, situation to situation, as well as the story matures as you begin to get more clarity about your business, about your proposition, about your um, uh, you know um, your own products, right? So yeah, I think it's,
So
and
yeah,
storytelling is it's in every part, right? Even if you're not a startup founder, storytelling
yeah,
is everywhere, right? if
yeah,
if you are trying to sell yourself as a professional, right? You are interviewing for a job, that's also an opportunity for you to tell a story, right?
absolutely.
There are some, I mean, let's take that context. There are some interviews where there are very factual conversations, right? There's
Hmm.
a, tell me about this, tell me about this, yes or no, list down things, etc.
Hmm.
But there are many parts of the interview, for any type of a role, will be subjective, right? Will be little open ended, right? If somebody says, tell me about yourself, tell me about your career, tell me about
Hmm.
your core skills, tell me about your strengths, right?
Hmm.
That's an opportunity. Every single one of those is an opportunity for you to tell a story, right?
Hmm.
Whereas if somebody says, hey, where did you graduate from? It's a very factual question. You just have one fact to lay in front of the interviewer. Uh, but usually it will be intertwined with a lot of storytelling opportunities, and you have to take those and be able to use those to make a good point, right?
Hmm. 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 So, well said in terms of, because story, I personally believe a person who can tell a great story goes a long way in building up anything that he is planning to, right? It can be a job, it can be his personal ecosystem, it can be his professional ecosystem, and so on and so forth. So, and not only that, even I believe so, even when there is a discussion about appraisal or performance improvement, even at that point of time, the discussion that goes between an employee and an employer, it's more like a story of what great he has done, and the other person saying how he could have done better, and so on and so forth. So yeah, so coming back to our discussion in terms of uh, for a startup, it all starts with an idea, right? We all believe, we all have ideas. Ideas are dime a dozen. We It keeps coming in every day in and day out to everyone and anyone. But what happens is many of them falter in creating a compelling story, which we have just discussed. So how does one go about it? How should one even approach this? So I have an idea, okay, but maybe in the professional parlance, I don't know how to set up a context, how to set up a story. Maybe I would be great in a personal capacity. So how does one go about structuring this? What do you suggest? What do you think? Because you have been there in that particular journey.
Okay, so for startup founders, um, so these um, some of the most successful startups, when the idea was formed and when probably the founders were narrating their story, they would have sounded crazy.
mm,
They would People would have, chuckled at their ideas.
mm,
Um, some of the ideas that look like the most obvious things,
mm,
which will succeed in the world, will not
mm,
succeed. Right? Um, so it it is not just about an idea being translated into a story and that, looking very obvious or compelling. Um, at the end of the day, what really matters is ability to execute to the idea. Right?
mm,
An average idea, well executed, is far better than a brilliant idea that cannot be executed.
mm.
Um,
Very well said. Yeah.
and most of the successful businesses that you see in this world, would have not started with very big, um, world changing idea.
Mm.
It may have been part of that whole thing, but they would have started with one small piece
One
to
step.
be able
Yeah.
to get towards that,
Right.
um, and then gradually expand into doing more and more.
Mm,
Right? Uh, and if you have the benefit of hindsight and think of successful businesses and say, hey, they had a great vision, they had a great story, they did well. Probably there were 100 others who had similar things, similar ideas or
yes.
better ideas, but couldn't execute well or well enough
Right.
to be successful.
Right.
Um, so I wouldn't say storytelling for a startup is the only thing that will get them, success.
Mm,
Storytelling only gives them a good start, and
mm,
storytelling enables them to engage with stakeholders better.
mm,
Storytelling, it is like the grease
mm.
in mechanical parts. It
Yeah.
makes the functioning smoother, better.
Mm.
Um,
Understood.
it gets you from point A to point B faster,
Mm,
with less friction, right?
mm.
If you are able to craft your story well, if you are able to narrate your story well, if you're talking to
Right.
an investor and they get interested in you as a founder,
Mm,
um, they get emotionally vested
mm,
in you, because there is something about your story,
mm,
which which says, hey, this is a person that I want to bet on. Right?
mm,
It could be because you have strong pedigree. It could be because you are an underdog. It could be
mm,
because you have so much of passion. Right? It could be any of those reasons,
mm,
or anything beyond those reasons.
mm,
But something should trigger in especially in the early stages of a startup. You don't have a track record to go to an investor and raise funds. Right? You're raising funds based on your credibility, the the idea, right?
mm,
The state of the idea, the opportunity in the market, right? The headroom to grow, or the market size and potential for such a product or solution. Um, if that is what people are betting on, then you should be able to make that process smoother, right?
mm,
And that is where storytelling becomes very important. But beyond that, right, it gradually, your ability to tell the story versus your ability to show, um, uh, you know
in
show
action symptom.
show in action, right? Show
Yeah.
deliverables, show that
Yeah.
you're able to meet your goals and targets, right? So it gradually changes. For a
Mm,
very mature business, no matter how good a story you tell, what investors will look at is your performance, right? Past performance. Right? That's
mm,
an indicator of how well you're going to perform in the future, because you've had the opportunity to perform against, your vision, your plans, and your commitments that you've made to investors.
mm.
So that importance of storytelling shifts purely from a business to an investor community standpoint, right?
Mm.
Uh, so like I said, storytelling very important in the early stages, especially you're talking to investors.
Yeah. But execution, at the end of the day, it's execution that it boils down to execution and how well you are able to execute the story that you have told. like, right?
That's correct.
So yeah, great. So also you deal with or you have been dealing with lot of data points, and that's what also been a very strong area that has been coming out in your ecosystem. So, and I'm sure only just putting a number to a slide or putting a number in front of anyone, it doesn't mean anything unless and until you frame a story around it and you are telling them what exactly is going to happen. So how do you frame a story from a data points which very few are able to understand? So what happens is, I have seen tons and tons and tons of presentation wherein people just slide after slide, it's the data that comes up. Okay, so even if we are talking about say a region wise performance, so they will just put east is performing like this, west is, north is, south is, example. So they just run through slides and slides and slides and slides, but that slide beyond a point becomes very technical. There is no connection, there is no emotion, it is just some numbers on the PowerPoint or from the on the presentation. How do we tell a story? Is there any framework, or there is no other way? You have to just keep on doing what has been done.
So it depends again who you're talking to. If you're talking to stakeholders who want data to form
Hmm.
their own interpretations, uh,
Okay.
then presenting the data in a very comprehensible way, in a very visually easy to understand way, that is the most important part.
Hmm.
But if you're telling, um, if you are playing a role where you're expected to derive insights out of that data,
Hmm.
uh, then your inferences is what matters the most,
Hmm.
substantiated by the data that you have analyzed.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
So if for example your job is to go to the business and help them tweak their incentive policy, for example, it's a say it's a retail business with operations across multiple regions. Now the head of business has a problem of saying, how do I grow, or why
Hmm.
is my growth suddenly slowing down? um, so if you are able to analyze what sort of incentives in the past have impacted performance, how the incentives have impacted performance of the sales teams across the different regions, what seasonalities are there within each of those regions. If you're able to analyze all of those and then create inferences for the business head and say, hey, if you when you did this in the past, this was your outcome. So
Hmm.
if you do this over the next 3 months, this is the expected shift in behavior you'll bring about. And to substantiate that, here is my data, and this is what past data is telling me, and if I model for the future, this is what it's going to look like, right? So
Hmm.
ability to provide those inferences, actionable insights, that is very important. If the
So
business stakeholder who expects results is who you're talking to.
okay, sorry to interrupt. So just a quick thought. Any example that, because you've been dealing in data, so any particular client example that you can think of which you have been able to create a story out of a particular data point, and that was like a wow experience for the client. Maybe he would have not thought about it from the putting a plain data is one thing, and but as you rightly pointed out, drawing inferences and telling the customer this is what it is and this is how you need to look at your entire business. Anything that has happened or you've been a part of such ecosystem, if you can just highlight an example, that would be great.
Yeah. Um, I'll not go into specifics,
Yeah.
but this is, if you look at any data analytics team in any enterprise, right,
Hmm.
uh, that is the desired outcome from that team. Right?
Hmm.
The data analytics team is expected to support the business stakeholders with
Hmm.
actionable insights.
Hmm.
It is much spoken about, but sometimes it gets too much cluttered with too much of noise and unwanted data points.
Hmm.
And also to note is that the same data, the same analysis could lead you to do different interpretations. Now,
Yeah.
how do you, how do you take that hypothesis and cross validate and narrow it down to the right options? So that is all something that only comes with deep context of the business,
Hmm.
with the ability to and maturity and
Hmm.
application of the knowledge over time, right? And that which is experience. So um, yeah, so sorry, I'm not getting into specifics, but yeah, I mean these are regular
Yeah.
occurrences. In any
Yeah.
large enterprise, if you go, this happens day in and day out, and even
Hmm.
in small businesses,
Hmm.
this should happen day in and day out, right?
Hmm.
uh, the good thing about being a funded business is
Hmm.
that people on the other side,
Hmm.
who are your investors and the analysts that work with the investors, they are extremely data savvy.
Hmm.
Right? Um, they want to look at numbers. They
Hmm.
want to crunch numbers. They
Hmm.
want to get quarterly and monthly MIS.
Hmm.
Um, so what it does to a business or in a startup context
Hmm.
is that it forces the founders also to start thinking about what the data is telling them
Yeah.
and
Right.
how they can use the that data to make decisions. and
Right.
and they will begin to understand what are those metrics that investors are looking at,
Hmm.
month on month, quarter on quarter, and how do I look at improving my business, against those metrics. So that
But
also
you
I
have
mean.
raised, yeah, you have raised a very valid point, and you have hit the nail right on its head, because I am a part of a couple of startups, and one of the startups which is funded. We never used to tell a story. It was all like data, and for us, it's like a mundane activity. Okay, we have to put some numbers to it, and we just used to send the presentation. But as you rightly pointed out, what you are talking to the investors, they are data savvy, they are crunching. What inferences can you draw? It dawned upon us after a couple of files that we have sent it to them a few months down the line, and then investors started asking questions, and then we started thinking, oh, okay, we need to give it in this particular format. We need to draw inferences, because just as a data, they are not a part of our industry. Just data doesn't serve them. Yeah, and that's when we started building our story. Maybe the MIS is only 5 slides, but the discussion goes for an hour in terms of what is the inferences, what is it that we are talking of, how the market is behaving, all from one particular slide. So I resonate with what you are saying, and maybe that storytelling aspect or business storytelling aspect has improved to certain extent because of great investors whom we deal day in and day out.
Yeah, no, whether you are inferring it for for the investors or not, they are inferring data, even if you're just submitting data.
Yep. Yep.
But they will end up inferring it in their own way. So you are
Yes.
better off to actually give them the story along with the data, so
Right.
that they look at it from the lens of the commentary that you're sharing. You say,
Right.
hey, this quarter we performed badly because we changed priorities, we had other things to do, and therefore we very knowingly and intentionally slowed some things down. Right?
Hmm.
That sets the
Hmm.
context of when they look at the numbers,
Hmm.
they're already prepared for what the numbers will say.
Right.
Right? So
Right.
managing the expectations of the investors, and ensuring that they read the numbers in the right way. That is where
Hmm.
the storytelling also comes into picture.
Hmm. And one aspect of also not only storytelling but overall ecosystem is managing expectations as well, like, because and that is the crux of most of the elements that we are talking of. So because investors are expecting something, uh, our shareholders are expecting something, the customers who are the people who would be giving us, their expectations are different, because at the end of the day they are buying hope from us. It's not the product. I always believe it's not the product that the seller is selling. It's the hope that they are selling. The hope that this product or solution of yours is going to solve my challenges, my pain points. That is the hope that they are buying in. That is their expectation. Employee expectation is different. So each one has a different narratives. Each one needs to be told different narratives. And and I'm sure there is no particular framework for any of this, but still I am just compelled to ask, do you follow certain framework, or you just go with the flow? Is there any set context or set framework, like let's say there is a most of the storytelling that comes in, you need to have a problem, the hero is the customer, and so on and so forth. So
Well,
so
yeah, let me say that in real life, um, we don't have to think like novelists and authors. We don't have to think like TED Talk, the speakers.
yeah,
We don't have to, we are not, creating a movie, so it does not have to be so structured, right? Obviously, storytelling has a lot of structures. There are very, very different formats in
right.
which stories are told. Uh, so you're, in a typical story, you're trying to create a challenge or a conflict, and you're trying to resolve it. And through that
Hmm.
process, there are ups and downs, and
Yeah,
and then there are,
the
those
tension is
pivotal
created. The
moments where, and there are these pivotal moments,
yes,
trigger points, which bring about certain shifts or changes,
right.
and that creates excitement and thrill among the audience. It could be good versus evil. It could be challenge being overcome. It could be any of those. I
Yeah.
wouldn't uh, say we need to embellish everything that you do, like a professional storyteller.
Hmm.
But whatever you're saying, you can always find ways to improve it and make it more catchy, make it more appealing, make it more interesting. And either you're, through your narrative, either you're setting context, setting expectations, and managing the expectations, or you're creating curiosity for them to, go to the next level of detail, right? Um, I'll just use an example.
Yeah.
I recently read in a newspaper article. They'll say, son of auto rickshaw driver cracks IIT.
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, now the story is that, hey, Ramesh, Suresh, or somebody, they are the top three. They top the IIT entrance
Yeah.
test, or it could be that somebody did so and so, which is just a
Hmm.
fact.
Hmm.
But now, when you're creating a headline where you're saying
Hmm.
somebody, so it's a whole entire story packed into one headline, right? Think
Yes.
about it that way.
Yes.
Right? You're not creating a very complex structure of a
Right.
story, but you're able to create that one thing about, there was this individual who
Yeah.
had this, who was an underdog, who overcame
Yeah.
all of those challenges, and he achieved
Right.
something, something tremendous.
Right.
That's one headline.
Yeah.
It's 10 words, and
Yeah.
it catches your imagination, and then you want
Right.
to read through, and you want to
Read
understand
more.
more, and you want to. So yeah, that kind of storytelling is very powerful.
Yeah. Hmm.
And it need not be, like I said, it need not be, TED Talk category of
Well
storytelling. It
said.
can be
Yeah.
simple storytelling in
Yeah.
simple ways, just making whatever you're presenting more interesting, more catchy.
Mm, So, very well said. Because whenever I read about story, the entire internet is filled with the hero, the problem, the tension, the ups, the downs, and so on and so forth. So, okay, great. Mr. Shailendra, you've been a part of a successful venture. You've got funding. You've got a series equity capital fund infusion, and so on and so forth. So, in my parlance, I will term it as a successful venture. Okay. So there is again, everyone has their own definition, but so
Yeah.
how do you build that? How do you build that? I'm sure there are many notes to it. There are many articles to it, but being there, breathing it, doing it has a different ring to it. Okay. So how did you build that? What do you say? What do you suggest? How does one go about it?
Yeah. So um, a decently good idea,
Hmm.
and anything above that is fantastic, right? A decently
Right.
good idea, um, in a in an industry or a space that is emerging or growing,
Mm, mm,
um, with a good set of people um, committed to the cause,
mm,
and being able to sustain through the initial periods, right? Getting the financial backing to be able to go through the initial product build, launch, customer acquisition phase. That is what is going to set the business up for success. Right?
mm,
Um, in my case, they were great founders and co-founders, and the management team was fantastic, uh, committed. We were lucky enough to get funding um, that helped us to invest in the product, to launch the product, to acquire the initial set of customers. So that is 0 to 1, right?
mm,
Um, Now, 1 to 10 is a different story. 1 to 10 is your ability to replicate that success, your ability to standardize your product and offering, or service, uh, being able to, and many of these cases, especially if you talk about B2B, um, you're serving a very small number of customers, right? In a B2C context, you're serving a large number of customers. So your ability to deliver outcomes and get repeat business, super critical. So you used a word, right? You're selling hope. Yes, most
mm.
definitely, right? In your first sale. But in your
Right.
second sale, in your repeat sales for any enterprise, it's not hope anymore, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It is outcomes. You're delivering outcomes, right? It's not a hope of an outcome. You're
Mm,
proving that you can deliver things, and you're signing up to do more things.
right.
Um, and in a B2B context, enterprise customers are extremely demanding, right?
Mm,
And they are uh, unforgiving if you
mm,
don't deliver results, right?
mm,
Because they are a business themselves,
mm,
which they will not risk because they
mm.
like somebody, just because somebody gave them hope. They will want to work with somebody that can get them results.
Right.
Um, so working with enterprise customers, being able to um, deliver consistent results and growing those relationships, growing the business with them, is extremely important. And that
Mm,
takes tenacity. It takes
mm,
perseverance. It takes
mm,
patience. It takes a lot of hard work.
mm,
So that is where I say execution excellence
mm,
comes into play, right?
mm,
Um, and any subsequent round of funding, right, after your ini- initial set of investors who also invested based on
mm,
the promise of the business, the next
mm,
set of investors, the next set of customers, they're all coming not based on the promise of performance, but your track record of performance.
mm,
uh, so so you have to live up to your own promises that you made in the past. You have to be able
mm,
to show that you deliver to your plans.
mm,
And that execution rigor is super important.
mm,
And this is where a lot of the startups will fail, because either
mm.
they are not able to create a repeatable business, or they don't have the tenacity to be able to go through with it. I mean, it's not very uncommon for people to feel burnt out through this process.
Mm. So nicely put in. So I am also thinking in my head of what all is applicable, because more or less we all go through the same journey. And uh, so half decent idea, good people who believe in this to work with, then your initial set of customers, from hope to outcomes, and then having execution led or execution excellence mindset to make it happen, is what I can take it, those nuggets, those insightful nuggets from you. um, Anything more that will help to shorten the learning curve for people like me and many others out there, apart from whatever you have mentioned? Anything that you think, your final words that you think will help us to shorten the learning curve?
Um, people have different needs for you know insights, knowledge, mentorship at different points in time. Uh, don't become a Google doctor, right? Don't just try to digest everything and anything that's out there.
mm,
Um, Contextualize it to what your need is, and that is where great mentors come into play, right?
mm,
Uh, you could say, "What give me success for startup?" Or if you say, I'll take an example that I recently used with somebody. If somebody will say, should you build a product based on what the customer wants, or should you build a product without talking to the customers? There are two
mm,
very different schools of thought. Somebody will say, if you ask the customer, you'll end up building what they think they want, but
yeah, it can
you
be
should be
a car,
building.
it can be a speed car, and so on and so forth. You will never be able to build
Right.
a flight.
And then the other school
Yeah.
of thought will say, you should never ask a customer, or you should, you don't build a product without asking a customer, because ultimately they are the ones that are going to use it. So
Mm,
you'll find all sorts of theories, all sorts of gyan on the internet.
mm,
How do you distill that and take away
mm,
what is relevant for you, what works for you in the context of where you are in your journey and where your business is? That is where mentors come into play. um, I'd say, uh, you know seek out mentorship. And it's not that the same kind of mentor will work in every context, in any context,
right.
and in every phase of the business. Be open to learning from individuals, learning from mentors, who can apply context to
Mm,
their experience and knowledge.
mm.
So that will be my only piece of advice, to to anybody seeking a lot of things, because you get what you seek. That's the beauty
Right,
of this world, right?
right, right.
So if you're seeking everything, you'll get everything, and you'll not do anything out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But thank you so much, because it's the format of our program wherein we spend a certain amount of time. I wish I don't mind continuing these days and hours talking to you, because these are all some valuable and insightful nuggets that I'm getting out of our discussions, and I'm sure many people out there would be listening to this and would be resonating with what you have actually told, and they would be going and applying it in their own ecosystem as well. So thank you so much, Mr. Shailendra, for your sharing your valuable insights, and it's been an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on our show and discuss the various facets of sell without selling. Your learnings and framework will help a lot out there in dealing with situations better. Thank you once again for your time, and it really means a lot to us.
Thanks a lot, Prakash, for having
That's
me.
it. Yeah, that's it for today. Do keep listening to the Prakash Batna Show, as every week we will come with an expert to share their views and experiences. Lastly, let me know what you think, and I greatly appreciate it. Myself, Prakash Batna, reminding you again, selling is easy when you know how. Take care, follow High Sales on social media, and do visit our website for free resources, www.highsales.in. Thank you once again, and see you all next week with one more mentor, one more experienced mentor, guide, guru, coach. Till then, bye bye. Thank you. Take care.